else disappointed we didn't get to see these aliens versions of, like, Loki? Oh, I'm getting real bad at these intro jokes. Okay, The Girl Who Died. We continue to work our way through Series 9, and we have arrived at another kind of two-parter. I find because I don't think I'm going to remember to talk about this later on, I find the way in which this and the following episode, The Woman Who Lived, function as a two-parter because it isn't the standard two-parter. I know it ends with the to be continued, but the immediate story is done. It sets up that there is more, but it's not like cliffhanger. It's not like, oh, the story's not finished. No, story's done, but there's very obvious follow-up to be done on it. And I kind of wish the show did that as a two-parter structure more often. That's not to say that I prefer it to just literally taking a story and dividing it in half. The show can do that very well sometimes. But in this particular instance, I found myself going, I kind of wish that it felt more like we had two-parters were more like, here's a story, here's a sequel to that story, as opposed to here's one story cut down the middle. I don't know. That just kind of occurred to me. So this is the one with Vikings and aliens pretending to be the Norse gods, and Maisie Williams as Isildur, who will show up again, and we'll deal with a bit more of that when we get there. So this one's just kind of middling. It's pretty good. That said, like, that's the overall thing. There are moments, there are bits, there are beats, there are things the Doctor says that I love. Actually, one of them even made my top 10 Doctor Who speeches, the whole thing where the Doctor realizes why he has the face that he has. That's phenomenal, and I love that entire segment. But beyond that, he has so many great lines when he's trying to prep the Vikings. Winning is all about looking happier than the other guy. Pretend like you already know their plans, and sometimes if you're very lucky, they'll tell them to you. Like, I love those sort of bits of bantery stuff, and actually, I especially like that second one because the way it's structured that he says that, it's like, sometimes if you're very lucky, they'll tell it to you. So I love the idea that he comes in with this swagger, not necessarily because he's that confident, or because it always works. Like, no, sometimes. Rarely, but sometimes. Like, in the few times that it does work, it matters enough that it's worth trying every time. I don't know why, that just speaks to me as like a great quality of the Doctor. It's like, well, this sometimes works. It costs me nothing to try it. Let's try it on the off chance that maybe it works. I don't know. I really do like that beat in that moment. The performances are solid in this as well. Pretty much across the board. I will say this is not an exceptionally great use of Maisie Williams as an actress. Her performance is fine, but there's very little to the character in this one. Now, she gets a lot more to chew on in the next one, and we'll deal with that when we get there. But I will say that if this had been her only appearance, I would have been kind of disappointed. Like, you didn't take advantage of the actress that you had, of the talent that you had, of what she can do and bring to a part. You didn't do much with it. But thankfully, this isn't her only appearance. Well, I say thankfully. There's also the end of the thing with Hell, but oh god. Okay. So we've got all that going on. Now, this does introduce early on something that I have railed against before, which is the notion of aliens being gods. Now, there's a couple of things about this that make me not loathe it. I still don't like the trope, but this is not the most egregious instance for a couple reasons. First off, I do kind of enjoy that the Doctor tries to pass himself off as Odin, only to get immediately shut down by a big face in the clouds. So that is kind of nice. And then, like, it's established so quickly. These are clearly not the Norse gods. Established to the audience, but also, like, established by the Doctor to these people, and they believe him. And honestly, just that line that he has, what is the one thing gods never do? They never show up. And that's good. And nobody on the ground acts massively irrationally because of their beliefs. So this doesn't dip into the main reason why I hate that trope, which is it doesn't make people with faith and belief look like idiots, which is the main reason I hate that thing. So it doesn't do that, and the elements of them pretending to be Norse gods is fairly short-lived. So it moves on from that, and we're okay. I like that the Doctor's first piece of advice for these people is just to run. And actually, not even his first advice, that's also like his second piece of advice, his third, his fourth. He just keeps hammering this like, run! Why are you still standing here? You know they're coming back. Run! And I love that that is his solution, because that, honestly, is the most practical solution under the circumstances. And we're not really given a particularly good reason why they don't. That is a little bit kind of just chalked up to them being Vikings and being really pig-headed, which I don't love, but also the Doctor calls them out on that. Like when one of them goes, you know, to die in battle is to die with honor. And a baby starts crying and he goes, do babies die with honor? I'm like, yeah, valid. And then to have that feed into, because he understands the specific things the baby is crying about and what it's saying, because we've previously established that the Doctor speaks baby. And I like that him hearing that is what makes him it's what makes him unwilling to abandon these people. And that especially tracks given what we now know about the Day of the Doctor and how needing to save the children was the primary reason he saved Gallifrey. Like that was the clincher. That was the thing that tipped the scales and ensured that he had to do this. So having a terrified baby want help and need protection, yeah, he would stay. He should stay. He will stay. Oh, and there's another thing about the baby. Like, I know it's explained in episode that the fire and the water thing ends up being electric eels, which I didn't bother to look up. Are electric eels native to the part of the world where this would be set? I mean, I don't know. I legitimately don't know. But let's assume for the moment that they are. And so there's the whole thing, the fire and the water, that the baby is crying, and the Doctor realizes it's electric eels. But it also occurred to me that there's another possible meaning of that. And I don't know if this was intentional. If this was done by accident, that's amazing. If this was done on purpose, that's amazing. Which is that this is the episode, as I mentioned already, he looks in the water barrel, sees his reflection in the water, and remembers the fires of Pompeii. He remembers the fires of Pompeii while looking in the water. Fire in the water. I don't know if that double meaning was intended, but boy, did it make me smile when I thought of that on a rewatch. I also like the way that this one handles the idea of the power of storytelling. Because that's something that, like, it's a fine needle to thread for me. Because broadly speaking, I like stories about stories, and I like things about the powers of stories. However, the big problem that I have with a lot of them, and part of the problem I've had with Doctor Who specifically at various points, is where, yes, it's about the power of stories, but it's about the aggrandizing of the storyteller, which, given that it's appearing in a fictional story, feels like writers patting themselves on the back for being writers. Oh, aren't we doing the most amazing thing ever? So that will tick me off, and that is absent in this particular iteration of the power of stories. And I was nervous for a little bit because you've got Ishildur basically projecting this story of a massive serpent into the helmets and the minds and the eyes of these invaders so that they flee. And the Doctor does have this moment where he's like, oh, you tried to take on a storyteller. I'm like, oh God, oh no. But then he shifts very quickly off that and says, you know, stories are how people remember you. It's your reputation. And what do you think your story's going to be? What do you think your reputation's going to be after folks find out about this? And that was a good shift to keep it from becoming and storytellers are the most important thing. Like, no, it didn't go there. It gave side eye to that idea, but then it went somewhere else. I'm like, okay, whew, good. So let's talk about the Doctor and Clara, because I keep coming back to this across this season and how the development of their relationship is building towards what's eventually going to happen. And I was about to say building towards Hellbent, but We'll see if it properly builds toward Hellbent. It's definitely properly building toward Face the Raven. Absolutely. We'll see when I get there if I feel like Hellbent is properly built up and paid off. But what we have here is we have Clara getting uppity with the doctor about the fact that he won't tell her the rules. Like, look, you mess with time, you create ripples, and you talk about tidal waves, but you just won't tell me the rules. And for the first time, I had a different notion as to why maybe he doesn't do that. And now, this isn't to say that this is correct or that what I'm about to say is accurate of previous doctors, but I'm just going by vibe of the moment. Generally, previously, whenever companions have complained that the doctor doesn't properly explain why he can do some things and can't do others, and he asked them just to take his word on it, the general sense that I got was that he's expressing to them, your brains cannot wrap around this concept. I've grown up with this. I know it instinctively. I cannot teach this to you. I just know. And so that's the vibe I've gotten previously. This time, I kind of got the vibe that the doctor, and this is never said, so this might even be me projecting, knowing what's coming later, but I did get the vibe that the doctor here is more along the lines of, I'm not going to tell you the rules because I don't trust you if you thought you knew what you were doing. That could lead to some very bad outcomes if you actually think you understand this. I'm not going to give you the foundation for you to make that mistake. So, and again, it is just a vibe. There's no specific lines I can cite to back that up, but it was the vibe of that interaction. And I kind of liked that. And it feeds back into, that the doctor, because he knows the rules, maybe he's more allowed to break them, but then again, maybe that's a bad idea because, what he does for Schilder, at the tail end of that moment that I love so much, I'm the doctor and I save people, and he goes and saves her, but he is openly admitting, I should not be doing this. And then he does. And then he pretty quickly admits, I might have just made a terrible, terrible mistake. And on the specifics of that, there's a little bit of just logistical, wait, what? The fact that this piece of alien tech is basically just going to allow her to live forever. Now, it will get established in the next one that she can be killed, but she basically will never die of natural causes. And it just strikes me as odd that if this piece of technology is so common that a race that is established in episode to be less advanced than the Time Lords can develop something that basically ensures they never die unless killed by unnatural causes, why don't we have way more immortals in the universe? I feel like it needed a little bit more tinkering, just in the technobabble, to establish that the Doctor, like in adapting it for a human, even accidentally souped it up to more than it was supposed to be or something. Because otherwise, like, this piece of tech seems way too easy to get and just graft onto somebody. And like, why does anybody die if this thing is so easy? So there's that. But beyond that, there's a lot of good weight at the end with the camera move around Isildur as her face just becomes more and more sullen as you realize the weight of years that are going on her. There is, however, a super awkward interjection, again, of the hybrid. So first drop we had of this was in The Witch's Familiar. And it was really awkward there, too. Not that the word was used, but how much emphasis got put on it by the person who said it, because it does not in any way sound like natural dialogue. It sounds like, hey, audience, pay attention to this. And I think I pointed that out in that review as well, where Missy was like, we're all hybrids. And now here, the Doctor's like, well, she's not really human. She's got alien tech in her. She's, in a way, a hybrid. I'm like, oh, for God's sake. The amount of highlighting you're doing of this word is painful. And it's weird getting towards it. Like, I feel like right now the jury is out on some of the, on the character arc aspect of the series arc here in terms of Clara and the Doctor and their relationship. I feel like I need to rewatch straight through to the end to make my final determination on that. My inclination right now is to say it works up through Heaven Sent and then Hellbent completely blows it. But we'll see. Jury's out on that. However, I would argue that the hybrid element of the series arc is one of the worst handled in Doctor Who. Like, the concept is being integrated into the stories, but it's not being pointed out in anything close to naturally. It's not subtle. It's a big highlight. And it's awkward and clunky and probably contributes to the fact that people still don't understand what the hell it's getting at. So, yeah, that's The Girl Who Died. It's pretty good. There's some good little moments in it. It's not exceptional. Like, that's the thing. There are some brilliant moments in it that if the overall story had been better, would have made a good story great, but instead it makes a fine story pretty good. So that's kind of where I'm at with this one. You rewatched it lately? What'd you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something on down in the comments. Let's talk about it. I've got all the things. You know the things, but I have a Patreon, which helps me keep the lights on and I can eat. And in addition to that, of course, if you're not able to help me out that way, like, share, subscribe, all of those things, and it would really help me out. But you also don't have to, because end of the day, you're the council. I'm just running the meetings, and until next time, this council is adjourned.